I should probably check to see this working first. Is it on? Come on. Just a minute. I heard that before somewhere. It's up. Used to an expression we Africans use for this with the room. Never go to it, which means it doesn't work. The first two phrases I learned back in the 1980s. Never go to it, and we call it Jesus. Didn't happen. But now I'm aware of it. In fact, I just came 4 days ago. I was in Ukraine, and I just came from Ukraine. I had to come through the border because there's no flights out of Ukraine. So I drove across the border. Can you hear? Not hear me. Closer. Closer to the microphone. That's better. And we drove across the border into Hungary, and then I flew to America, Budapest. I was asked if I would speak a little bit this evening. I don't know how to combine the two. I'll have to just extemporaneously figure out how to do it, because we're also having some initiations today. But I was asked to speak a little bit about Ukraine, especially since I just came from there. We had a week-long event where devotees gathered from all over Ukraine. It's not like our usual Bhakti Sangama festivals where we used to have up to 14,000 devotees attending. But this was, we don't call it a festival either, we call it a retreat. Because sometimes people may wonder how it is that the Hare Krishnas are engaged in festivities in the middle of a war. So it's known as the Itagoyanga retreat. But 1,300 devotees did attend. And I'll speak a little bit about it because I have hundreds of photos, but I just kind of gleaned about 50 of them. And I could talk a little bit about the situation in Ukraine. This is not a fundraiser. Please put that out of your minds. It's more as an expression of gratitude. And I think that will become clear as I begin speaking. Om Jnana Timbarandasya Gyananjana Slakaya Chakshu Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Ukam Karoti Vachalam Pangam Langayate Girim Yat Kripa Tamaham Vande Shri Gurum Ditaranam Nama Om Vishnu Vidaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Shrimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Prachadini Nirvishesha Shanyavadi Paschatya Satani Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. I was in America last October, and in the course of my travels, not to so many places, but people are always asking me questions. It's in the news. Everybody's hears about these things, of course, it's always presented in a way that's, you, you see that there's a lot of conflict going on in the country. There's a lot of missiles exploding throughout the country. And that's a fact. Cannot be denied. It's a fact. In fact, I spoke to many devotees in Ukraine um, last week, and especially from the major cities, and most of them told me that there's no opportunity to sleep at night because missiles are exploding all night long in the major cities. So some devotees were telling me they can't even sleep in their flats. They go into the hallways and the corridors and sleep at night because fragments are falling out of the sky and destroying a lot of apartments. And that people are crying. Um, but there's a certain observation I've had right from the outset of the war, and I've been told by many people throughout Europe, because at least 2,000 devotees have, at one point in time, had left Ukraine because they were in the middle of the conflict. And because the situation was unpredictable, the life was uncertain, and naturally they were thinking about how to take care of their families. In fact, just recently I was telling the story of, is that here, or is that something that needs to be responded to, or? Ah, it's outside. Okay, got it. I was telling the story about Ganga Das in Chaitanya Bhagavat, that when Lord Chaitanya, during his Mahaprakash Leela, he was meeting with all of his associates and revealing to them how he had previously appeared before them under different circumstances. And the pastime of Ganga Das is an example of a devotee who was very fearful of his life, fearful of his family's life. And he was thinking when his village was being attacked by soldiers, how could he protect his family? And he went down to the Ganges and he was going to take them across the Ganges, but there was no way across. And he became very fearful. How will I protect my family? And at some point, he was thinking they couldn't swim across, currents were too strong, there were no boats there. And he began to think that if I cannot do anything to protect my family, maybe I should just tie a rope around my neck and drown myself. And during the Mahaprakash Leela, Lord Chaitanya called Gangadas to him and reminded him, Gangadas, do you remember? You remember when you were standing at the banks of the Ganges and you were wondering how to save your family, to protect them from what was happening in the village? You went to the river looking for a boatman, couldn't find one, couldn't cross the river. And you began thinking, if I can't save my family, I'll tie a rope around my neck. Did you remember that? And Gangadas said, yes. And did you remember that a boatman came? And when you saw the boatman, you were so overwhelmed with gratitude, you immediately thinking, what can I do? Well, boatman, will you take my family across the river? I'll do anything that you possibly, I'll give you a donation. Whatever you like have is yours. Can you please take my family? And you remember the boatman appeared there from nowhere and said, yes, certainly I will take. And he asked Gangadas, do you remember all this? And Gangadas said, yes. And then Lord Chaitanya said to Gangadas, Ganga, I was that boatman. I came personally to protect you. Of course, in Mahaprakash Leela, there's so many such revelations of how Lord Chaitanya came to protect Haridas Thakur, how Lord Chaitanya chastise Mukunda, so many different pastimes, but I just was reflecting that I was telling that pastime, and the devotees heard about it, they got a little sense that, well, it's okay to feel a little fearful. As Gangadas was fearful, but although it seemed apparently that Gangadas had forgotten the Lord, because the Lord always protects his devotees, but the Lord personally revealed to Gangadas that he didn't forget him. Such is the benefit of remembering the Lord in all circumstances. Engaging in some service to the Lord will not forget whatever service is rendered. So I was telling that story in relationship to another pastime, an instruction in Ukraine. But I wanted to show a presentation that I have. It was shown by Achutapriya, who is the regional secretary of Ukraine. And he was asked to give a presentation at the, what's it called in Mayapur? ILS. Yeah, sorry, ILS. You should know. I didn't go this year because I was in the Ayurvedic clinic, and I wasn't able to go to neither the ILS nor the GBC meetings. So he gave a presentation, and then I took that presentation from him, and I was going to show and speak a little bit about it. And then I also wanted to show some photos from our event in Iski in the Western Ukraine, which I just left a few days ago, and speak a little bit about it. But as I said before, this is not a fundraiser. My experience right from the outset, February 24th, 2022, when the invasion first began in Ukraine, um, people were calling me from everywhere. GBC God Brothers were calling, devotees from America were calling, and they were asking, "What can we do to help?" I if I I can't count how many phone calls or emails, messages I got. I mean, I was like in the middle of central station, central communications, and I didn't have to ask anybody for anything. From all over the world, devotees came forward and they wanted to help in some way, in whatever way they could. And all I found myself doing was facilitating all the devotees' desire to render service. I felt like I was bound to their desire to serve. And the result was we started a website, and we put devotees in charge of what was called shareyour.care. You might have seen that website on the internet. And sometimes people were calling up, GBC God Brothers were calling me up, saying, "Can we interview you, Maharaj? Can you please tell us a little bit about the history of the Ukraine Yatra? Can you answer some questions about devotee care? Because the devotee care in Ukraine it's the central heartbeat of the Yatra. Because there are almost 20,000 devotees in Ukraine. So there were almost 20,000 devotees in Ukraine. As I said, maybe up to 2,000 did leave at one point or another. But they have a camaraderie amongst themselves. They have close communities, close sanghas where they get together, and that's what gave them strength to survive the atrocities and difficulties that many of them were subjected to. I mean, there were hundreds of devotees in Mariupol. I can tell you stories that I can't tell you, but of things that happened in these cities, Mariupol, Severodonetsk, and other cities which were completely decimated, and how Krishna protected his devotees. Yeah, maybe even share a couple of them, but at the proper time, not yet. So one God brother called me up and he said, Maharaj, can I just ask you questions about the devotee community, devotee care, how many devotees in Ukraine? And he interviewed me for 2 hours just asking questions. And he said, Maharaj, okay, we uh, thank you very much for all your answers to our questions. Yeah, could you leave now? So I left, and then he personally, everyone who was online, there were hundreds of devotees online, he personally I didn't ask, he asked, can you help the devotees in Ukraine? And next thing I know, it's $20,000. A check appeared from this particular yatra, from this GBC. And it happened in America. Many of you may have received letters from Kaladri Prabhu. Kaladri Prabhu, he called me up and he was relentless. Maharaj, can we interview you? And I think Anuttama Prabhu interviewed me. I spoke about the history of the Ukraine Yatra. And then Kaladri Prabhu said, thank you very much. Is there anything we can do? And I said, well, this was I think it was in November or October. I said, well, many of the temples have no electricity. He said, oh, now I know what to do. Thank you, Maharaj. Hung up. And then he contacted all the temples and leaders. And over the course of a couple of months, he provided generators, solar panels, um, so many different things so that our temples could survive the lack of electricity. And devotees, some places, many of them, they were going out on book distribution for the marathon. And they couldn't go home, so they went to the temple because it was the only place that was warm. They went to the temple for morning programs, and they had heat, they had electricity because of the generous donations from all of you in North America. And I know my message, I sent out a letter of gratitude to Kaladri Prabhu. I sent it out on the internet, but I wanted to personally thank any of you who took part in that effort. Um, it was definitely warmly appreciated by the devotees there who somehow their preaching spirit is very strong. Last year, they distributed more books last year than in 2021. And the marathon was twice as many books during the marathon. Devotees were going out, and people were so receptive, so receptive. In fact, even when I crossed the border, just this last trip, 4 days ago, I was crossing the border in Ukraine, and one burly Ukrainian customs officer or immigration officer came over to me and spoke in Ukrainian. Unfortunately, I don't understand. I understand Russian, but I don't understand Ukrainian. It's two different languages, it's too different. But he was asking the question, if you were to describe the purpose of life in one word, can you please tell me what that purpose of life is? And it was a question I didn't expect to get from this, immigration officer, and he was a big burly guy. So I told him love. I said, you gave me one word, so love is the word. And he was so grateful for that response. He says, thank you. I've now understood that really makes sense. And he spoke, my driver spoke Ukrainian. So that's how I found out. So he began to speak very, he could see we were religious people and he wanted to ask that question. We gave him some prasadam sweets and he was almost crying. So grateful for the sweets. As we were going to the next booth to show our passports, he immediately opened up the window, and he called us. Big thumbs up. He said, "Thank you so much for those sweets." He loved them. So there's a certain, and the devotees who go out on book distribution, they tell me quite frequently that the people are really asking relevant questions. They're asking questions, and not only are we asking relevant questions, but they're looking for answers. And the result is that our temples, our Sunday programs are going on now in in the cities where there's still temples. Unfortunately, we lost some. Uh, that's in the report. I'll show you. We lost some temples. They were taken possession of, and one was destroyed by a missile, a small temple, but no devotees were hurt. And the only thing is that, especially in Kiev, um, if we have an assembly, it's allowed, but only if there's a bomb shelter that can provide uh, a place for as many people who are assembling can go down and stay in case there's an air raid during the time of the event. So right now, that's what our devotees are constructing, a bomb shelter. Kiev Temples is a seven-story building, and we have two levels below where the devotees took shelter during the air raids in the earlier parts of the year. But now they have to build the bomb shelter, and they're in the process of doing that. I'm speaking, I wanted to give a few visuals. That's why I have the computer here. And this was the presentation that was presented in the ILS. Um, this this is the Bhakti Sangama Festival in 2013, actually. This was this pandal is the size of an airplane hangar. I can't remember how many meters long it is, but it's huge. As you can see, it's quite full. And even people on the outside, we had to open up the flaps on all sides. In that 2013 festival, there were 14,000 devotees attending that event. Um, Share Your Care was started to support individuals, and it was through donations from all over the world that many of the people found themselves in very difficult situations. They had to evacuate. They had no means to evacuate. Some devotees were unfortunately injured, shrapnel wounds, um, and had to have surgery, emergency surgery. Some devotees lost their homes completely. In fact, in a city called Severodonetsk, Shutrapriya, who's the leader there, he was usually calling devotees, because we have devotees, 20,000 devotees. There's devotees in every major city. We have 30 temples in Ukraine, had. And so he would call, and when he would sense that it was not safe, he would try to convince the devotees that maybe they should either go to Western Ukraine. That's where a lot of them were going to. And he convinced this one family finally to leave. And they just left their flat. They took whatever they could put in the car and they drove to Western Ukraine. And 2 days later, a missile went right through their flat. and uh, and unfortunately, their neighbors on both sides, they did not survive. But had they been there, uh, we don't know what would have happened, but that's only one circumstance. There are other devotees who came to see me from Mariupol. He was inside the theater that was bombed. Um, he was there um, at the time when it was bombed. And he came to see me in Lviv. I went to Lviv last year for Janmashtami in Western Ukraine. And he told me that he was a scout, that because many people in Mariupol, they were looking for green corridors to get out of the city. And they discovered that some corridors were labeled as green corridors, ways that they could get out, but when they went there, they were not green, they were red. And so he volunteered to scout, and he would go and stay there until he could determine that it was safe for people to leave the city through the corridors. So one of his visits back to the theater is when it was bombed. And the only thing he remembers is that when he woke up, he was, which under I think I told him this story. When he woke up, he was on a bench outside, and he had some injuries, not serious injuries. He had a brain contusion. He had to be hospitalized, but he has no memory of what happened. And he said that 2 days later, Prabhupada appeared to him in a dream and put his two lotus feet on his head and told him everything would be okay. And he came up to me in Lviv and he said, I was able to come, because I survived somehow. So devotee, there are many stories like this. Another story of a devotee who's a commander of a military platoon, and a missile landed in their trench, and he's a devotee, and he chants his japa every morning. Gets up very early, chants his 16 rounds, and when it wasn't a big missile, I have a picture of it. When the missile landed in the trench, it landed on his shoe, and somehow the what's it called? Huh? The detonator. Somehow the detonator landed inside his shoe, and it was protected from detonating, and the bomb didn't come off. And his whole platoon, they said, we're all alive because he prays to God every morning. they all became, they all became believers. And there's an expression, there's no atheists in foxholes. So I remember that. So there's good stories. Unfortunately, I'm telling the good ones. I'm not telling all the bad ones. We did lose some devotees, um, but not many. But they're devotees who voluntarily went, and some of them were killed in the front lines. And so, under those circumstances, many devotees required help. So, Share Your Care helped um, 3,730 devotees. They received individual financial aid. Either they were given money for food in the beginning. None of them, some devotees were in basements for weeks and weeks and weeks with no water, no food, no gas, no money. So devotees were, with these donations that were sent, they were sent to devotees who could get money through the bank, and they would personally go out risking their own lives to bring money to other devotees who are in the basements so that they could get food. There's many of the devotees in Mariupol, they survived because they lived near a river or they melted snow and they drank water from melted snow. Um, I guess I tell these things because I remember in the old days when I used to travel, because I've been going to the former Soviet Union since the late 1980s. And I was there when communism fell. I was there when not Putin, excuse me, Yeltsin was standing on the tanks in the parliament. And I've watched everything over time. And, and I used to come back to America and sometimes show slideshows of how the devotees were living there. And without fail, every place I would go, devotees would come up to me and say, you know something, Maharaj? we really take things for granted here, don't we? It was like a mantra that was chanted everywhere I went when I would show those pictures. We really take things for granted here, don't we? And it's kind of helpful. I sometimes to hear how devotees are preaching, hearing, chanting, gathering. I mean, if I were to show you these pictures, which I will, of devotees in Western Ukraine, they were so blissful and so grateful, just so grateful. When I went to Janmashtami last year, we had our Vyasa Puja for Srila Prabhupada, and most of the devotees, they were reading their offerings to Srila Prabhupada. There was not a dry eye. In every offering, devotees were just expressing gratitude to be a part of Srila Prabhupada's family. They were just so grateful because they felt support. They felt support globally. They felt support that they felt cared for. And it was, it's that and their camaraderie with each other sustained them and gave them strength to go on and to preach, um, to accept loss. In fact, I just got a letter 2 weeks ago from devotees in Kherson. I'm sure you know about Kherson. And this was before the dam broke. And he was telling me uh, that what was going on in Kherson, and devotees are going out distributing prasadam several days a week. Devotees are gathering in devotees' homes. They're having namhata. They're having regular programs. They're going out harinam. They're distributing prasadam. In fact, here's another story from Kherson. Devotees were going out in Kherson distributing prasadam, food for life. They go out several days a week, and they cook the food at the bottom of a swimming pool because it was the only place they felt it was safe enough. So, of course, there was no water in the swimming pool. They were at the bottom of a dugout pool. And then they would get all the food together and they went regularly to a standard place where they went to distribute prasadam to people in Kherson. One day, as they were driving out, the devotees realized, they looked in the back of the van and said, you know, we forgot Prabhupada's books. And the devotees then started to discuss with each other, should we go back or should we keep on going? And after some time, they came to the conclusion, our whole purpose for going out is not just distributing prasada, but giving people opportunity to get Srila Prabhupada's books. So we should go back. So after they decided, they went back to get the books. And then after they got the books, they went to their spot. And while they went back to get their books, their spot was hit by a missile. Everything was gone. Everything. If they didn't go back to get Prabhupada's books, they would have been dead. And they understood, yes, if we put Prabhupada's books first and foremost, Prabhupada will protect us. So that was Kherson. But I was telling about a devotee family from Kherson. They had to leave. They had to go to Crimea, and then they had to go to another city. They had no means of livelihood. And he was telling all the things that are going on in Kherson. This was 2 weeks ago. 2 weeks ago, I got this letter. And then he said that sometimes I have to go to places to try to find some income. But then he wrote one paragraph. Can you have my bag here? The paragraph, I thought I would read it because it really sums up the mood of so many of the devotees. And he said, yes, there are many uncertainties on the material sense, where to live, where to settle down, where to educate our children, how to make money, etc. But on the spiritual sense, what to do every day is clear. Srila Prabhupada has given us a program for life under all circumstances. We just have to try to follow it. I mean, this is sort of, this, because this came 2 weeks ago, it's fresh, but so many letters expressing a similar sense of Prabhupada gave us the formula. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's some devotees traumatized. I mean, on the other side of the spectrum, there are devotees who are traumatized, who require assistance. But so 3,730 devotees got assistance. And then from within Ukraine, many of the devotees didn't want to leave. They went to centers in the western part of Ukraine because the western part of Ukraine wasn't so heavily bombed as the eastern parts of Ukraine. And 600, it says 588, I changed it to 681 because since the time the report was made, since this week, 680 devotees were given shelter in our temples in cities like Lviv. Uh, if I say them, you probably won't know them unless you're from that area. So I won't bother to name all the cities. But these cities, the temples were increased and facilitated by the donations to accommodate these devotees. Many families were living in the temple room with blankets in between, men on one side, women on the other side, one bathroom, one toilet, one shower. And that's how they lived for months. And grateful. 105,000, 112,000 plates of prasadam were sponsored and distributed to devotees in need. This was also a young girl. She had pneumonia. She was quite ill. They had to save her life, and donations from abroad actually saved her. These devotees from Kherson lost their house. They regularly sponsor Namhata programs in their house, and devotees came forward to help them to gradually rebuild it. I don't know what's happening now. The Ukrainian occupied part of Kherson is more higher than the Russian occupied parts of Kherson. So the damages are not as severe on the Ukrainian side as they are on the Russian side, on the other side of the Dnieper River. So these devotees were on the Ukrainian side. I don't know what happened. Then I told you about the generators that North America provided. North America provided over $100,000 to get generators and solar panels for all of our projects. And these are just simply some pictures of, this is the solar panels in our temple in Kiev. As I said, it's a 7-story building. Then there was a patron program started. This is our temple in Kiev. Devotees are living there again. The deities had to be protected, and because of the constant bombing. So back last year, towards the early part of the year, they were put in a place and completely protected, except the small Radha Krishna deities and the small Gauratai deities. They're being worshipped in the prasadam room, and on Sundays, about 250 people coming for the Sunday program. This is Kherson. This is one of the buildings that was occupied, and Russian soldiers occupied the building. The devotees had to leave, and then haven't been able to go back because there's high risk of mines in the building, so they didn't want to take any chances. But this is our temple in Kharkiv. Kharkiv is quite close to the front lines. Um, Many devotees from Kharkiv were at the event last week, and they're telling me that there's no sleep at night. These are the deities in our Kharkiv temple. They're being worshipped again. They were taken, they were brought to a rural retreat center, but then they were brought back and we started to worship them again. And this is just a few weeks ago. The program for Chutapriya has been traveling around, and he's been visiting most of the temples in Ukraine and giving lectures and having kirtans. And this is in Kharkiv during the war. It's a Sunday festival. This was the building that was destroyed by a missile in Kramatorsk. Kiev Temple. This is Radhamadova. They were installed in 2017. There were 250 devotees working in the deity department in Kiev. All services are voluntary. All the deity worship is done on a rotational basis. 250 devotees, I said, are in charge of. The devotees make all the outfits. The devotees do all the offerings, 7 offerings. That's how they were worshipped. Presently, they're not being worshipped, and we're looking forward to the day when they can be taken out from protection and worshipped again. And the devotees are praying for it constantly. This is the Sunday festival in Kiev. Um, this was in February. This is Zaporozhye. You've heard a lot about Zaporozhye, I'm sure, in the news. It's where the nuclear plant is, or near there. And it continues to function, this temple. These are the deities, Thai deities in Zaporozhye. This is a temple in Dnipro. It used to be called Dnipropetrovsk. Now they changed it to Dnipro. It's a very beautiful temple. There's Shri Gauratai is worshipped, and Jagannath, Baladev, and Subhadra are also being worshipped, and they're also regularly having Sunday programs at their temple. This is a temple construction has been recently completed in Odessa, in the southern part of Ukraine, on the Black Sea. And, excuse me, yes. And the deities were taken out, but they've been since brought back, and now they're being worshipped again. And hundreds of devotees are gathering for the Sunday program. This is Jagannath in Odessa, Bakhmut. Everybody, I'm sure, has heard about Bakhmut. We had a temple there, but we don't know what's happening there. It's directly in the front line. All we know, though, is that most of the devotees, practically all the devotees, had to flee, and there's nothing there going on in terms of Krishna consciousness at the moment. They went to the western parts of Ukraine. Some had to go to Europe. This is Food for Life distribution is going on in 50 cities all over Ukraine. The devotees are greatly appreciated for their food distribution. I told one Food for Life story, but the number of plates, 250 points of food distribution in Ukraine. And many of this is funded by donations globally also, so the devotees can continue with their Food for Life, food for distribution. There's 500 Food for Life volunteers in Ukraine, and over 2 million plates. And that was distributed. Now it's probably close to 3 million plates per shot have been distributed. 11,000 plates distributed daily. In Kharkiv, this is a picture from Kharkiv, the devotees distributing prasadam, because many people take shelter in the metro underground, and you can see how people are lining up for prasadam there. Book distribution, I already spoke a little bit about it. Just a few pictures of a book distribution in Kiev during the marathon last year. We had some stalwart distributors going out distributing 100 books a day, big books, big books and big books every day. They were distributing. People were buying them. They must have had some interest. And this simply talks about the community of devotees. 2,000 devotees left Ukraine, fleeing from the war, and that's the end of his presentation. Now, I'm sorry I didn't plan on taking this long. Do you want to see the few pictures from our event last week? This is from last week. Yes. Uh-huh. There's a few pictures. It's we've had to find a place. Uh, wait a minute. We had to find a place in the Carpathian Mountains. We wanted to go, which is the western part of Ukraine. We wanted to go to a place where obviously there would be hopefully no missiles, and and it's a very beautiful place. And this is just the venue. We were able to rent a ski lodge. They had ski lift there, and they have a lodge. It's a wooden lodge. And we did it last October also for Govardhan Puja, and about 850 devotees attended. As I said, for this event, 1,300 devotees attended. But the lodge that we used is a wooden building, and you can imagine devotees don't get an opportunity to come together for kirtan like this so frequently. And it was a wooden building, and we discovered on the first day of the event, it was a wooden building that wouldn't tolerate dancing. When the devotees started dancing, the floor started dropping. I don't know how much. It was bouncing almost like a trampoline. So we had the whole event in October, uh, and there was no dancing during kirtan. Devotees, they what's the word? When you find a way to get around it. They found a way to dance without dancing. But I told them, I said, if we're going to have an Iniski again, I said, we have to dance. So I'll show you. We built a whole, on the side of a mountain, we built a platform flat so the devotees could dance. But that's coming up soon. But this is the place in the mountains of Iski. And you'll see in the background, you'll see a picture of it. As I said, I had hundreds of photos, but here's a short video clip of what the devotees had to build. This is the cooking facilities they built for cooking for 1,300 devotees. They built stoves. They all come early. Hundreds of them came early, simply so they could actually help set up the event. It's all volunteer. Everything in our festivals is all volunteer. Devotees come and they give whatever donations they can give for the cost of the event, and they pay themselves for their own accommodations, but everything else is just volunteer basis. Some of them come and they just serve. Some of them come give donations, and anyways, that was setting up the cooking facilities. This was setting up. This is on the side of the hill. They built a floor, a level floor, and they're setting up the round pandal where anyways, it basically just shows. I don't need to show the whole video, but you get a sense of what they were doing to set up the pandal. And then when we arrived, I was not the only one this time. Fortunately, the Madhavananda Prabhu, he came to give a talk. Devotees in our festivals, we have kirtan in the evenings, but throughout the day there's seminars. I gave a seminar on Lord Chaitanya's instructions from Adi Lila chapter 17 about from the Naradiya Purana about Harinami Vakevalam. I spoke for 5 days on that topic. And then and Chivakam Maharaj was there. He spoke about Prabhupada. And Bhakti Chaitanya Maharaj was there. He spoke about Sri Krishna's qualities. He spoke for 5 days. Madhavananda Prabhu spoke about the from Kanishta to Majjhima. And Achutapriya, who's the leader there, he also gave a 5-day seminar on Srimad Bhagavatam. And dear Shanta Goswami was also present there. Uh, that's dear Shanta Goswami there. Uh, Bhakti Chaitanya Swami. Um, this devotee who's greeting me, actually, all your donations that were sent to share your care was handled by him. This devotee's name is Bhakta Vladimir. He's the one who personally dispersed to 3,700 people and got them in times of emergency and saw that they got funds. So I was very grateful to see him and thank him. Uh, this waiting to receive us. Uh, that devotee is Gaur Purnima. He's the devotee who's been organizing these events for the last 20 years. And he also organized this event. He and another devotee named Maharaj, they organized this event. There's some more. One thing that's very common amongst devotees, I just took a few of these pictures because this is what you see everywhere. You see this because many of these devotees who see each other regularly before the war, they don't get to see them except for this event. And it's very, very, I guess that's why the photographer was taking so many of these pictures of devotees embracing. So grateful to see each other. And this is Gaur Purnima. So, and that's Prema Ras. They're the two devotees who organize. This was the lodge where we had Mangal Artik every morning. And inside we had Mangal Artik, and then after Japa, we all went out to the Pandal where we had Guru Puja because it was not big enough for all the devotees, but it was very cold in the morning. It was sort of like 6, 7 degrees, not centigrade. And it was cold. So that's why we were inside for Mangal Artik, and then we all moved out with our warm coats. I had my winter coat on for Guru Puja and for Srimad Bhagavatam class. Lord Nitai was being worshipped in the lodge. And this, as we said, was Mangal Artik. Here's something about cooking. Devotees very blissfully bread and potatoes. Devotees loved it. I asked them, how's the prasad? They were just bread, potatoes, cabbage, cucumbers, and potatoes. CCCP. You look like you're familiar with these things. Yes? Huh? You love potatoes? So do the devotees. They love potatoes. If you give them potatoes and clip, just, food was fantastic. It was feast. Although they had other preparations too. Altar will close soon. So what does that mean? Oh, I should have to do the initiation before the altar closes. Sorry. This is the first time. This is the first time I've been speaking straight English for the last 5 months. Except once in Dubai and once in Bahrain. It was the only time I was able to. So I'm not used to, and I like it, Because usually I speak in sentences and fragments, and I can only speak, I would have only said half of what I've said right now. So this is the first talk, so forgive me, I got a little carried away. Forgive me, please forgive me. Okay, well, we're all serving prasadam. I have just a few more pictures. How many minutes before the altar closes? 10 minutes, okay. Here's some pictures of prasadam served. This Mahamana, she's been the pujari of deities in Kiev for the last 25 years. And she's so dedicated. Head pujari. This is just prasadam serve out. In different venues, they serve out prasadam. Volunteer. And That looks like Dal. This is Achutapriya. He's the zonal secretary of Ukraine. Everything goes on there because of him. I just watch. I just, whatever I can do, I help him. He's the one, the glue that holds everything together. I just assist him. But he's a very, very wonderful devotee. We've been working together for the last 34 years. It was an initiation. Many devotees took initiation on the next day of the event. And this is the last departure. As we were leaving, devotees were all gathering to give flowers. These were different volunteer groups who did cooking. This is another volunteer group who did the cooking for the guests. And they wanted to pose for a picture. Okay, that's it. So, if you're clapping because I'm finally over, I don't blame you. Again, just thank you so much for all of you who've helped Ukraine devotees send their tears of gratitude, and for all of the help that you've given and all the support that they feel from around the world. And I'm simply their mouthpiece. So thank you. And we have an initiation. Well, maybe we should take the vows in front of the deities. So maybe we should do that now. And then I'll speak a little bit about, just a little bit for a few minutes after they receive their beads and their new names. Okay. Sorry, this is definitely an unorthodox initiation. All right. Did you get neck beads? Everyone got? No? Okay. Oh, you can do it before the yagya. Yeah, yeah. Oh, you can do it now. Go ahead. Go ahead. This time. Huh? I should get closer to the microphone? Yes. Really? Very good. Do you have the beads? Both of them. They'll come together now. Okay. Sorry. Yes, everybody has their beads. Okay, so we'll ask you both to come together, husband and wife. Come and accept your vows. I'll accept your vows. Offer your vows. Table? This right here? Okay. But I have to hold the beads. You want to move this? So we have Rupesh and Pinky. They are coming to take their vows. And what vows are you taking today?
I vow I will strictly follow.
Do you give them the microphone?
Which are no nudity, no intoxication, no illicit sex, and no gambling. And also, I will chant minimum 16 rounds. Minimum 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day, and I will be faithful to Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada mission for the rest of my life.
Hare Krishna Guru Maharaj. I vow that I will follow four regulative principles, which are no meat eating, no intoxication, no gambling, and no illicit sex. I will chant minimum 16 rounds of Hare Krishna Mahamantra every day and will be faithful to Srila Prabhupada missions.
Thank you very much. Feedback. Okay. So, on behalf of Srila Prabhupada and Guru Parampara, I'm accepting both of you today as my initiated disciple. And we are giving you a new name. It's a name for Krishna, one who enchants Radharani. Your new name is Radhika Mohandas. And we have accepted you also as an initiated disciple. On behalf of Srila Prabhupada and Guru Parampara, we have given you a new name of Radharani, who is the abode of love. Your new name is Prema Mai Radha Devi Dasi. Hare Krishna. We have one devotee coming from Connecticut, Bhakti Alvia. She is coming to take her vows today also. Oh, this is someone's feedback. Is this yours? Yes. What vows do you for today?
Maharaj, I accept for principles. No meeting, no intoxications, no gambling, no illicit sex. I promise to chant Mahamantra daily, not less than 16 rounds. I promise to serve Prabhupada's mission with all my devotion.
Thank you very much. So on behalf of Srila Prabhupada, the Guru Parampara, I'm accepting you today as my initiated disciple. We have given you a name of Radharani, and it's very beautiful, provides immortal pleasure to her devotees. Her new name is Amrita Sundari Devi Dasi. I'm not sure what I should do. This is supposed to be over by 6:30, right? Please start the yajna. No, that's okay. Just do what you have to do. I'll speak to the devotees individually about initiation. Then you could begin the yajna. Huh? Whatever this usual schedule is, just follow it.
Hare Krishna. So there is the Achaman Patra. To do the Achaman, hold the spoon, left hand, do like that.
Keshavaya Namah. Then wash your hands, both hands. Om Narayana Namah. Again, wash your both hands. Then Om Madhavaya Namah. Then you chant Om अपवित्र पवित्र वा सर्वावस्थां गतो यपि वा च स्मरेत् पुण्डरीकाक्षं सव्याद्य अभ्यन्तरः शुचि. Then again, put 3 drops of water on your hands. Say Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu, Sri Vishnu. Om Vishnu Namah. Baba Holy Baba. Now, Pogni Puja. Mangalacharan ho. Whatever ingredients in front of you, hold like this with 3 fingers. 3 times. When I'm saying Swaha, you put 3 times Swaha, Swaha, Swaha. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshura Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namah. Om Idam Gurave Idam Namah Swaha. Shri Chaitanya Manohabishtam Sthapitam Yana Bhutale Sayang Rupa Kadamyaham Dadati Sa Padantikam Idam Besacharjay Idam Namama Swaha. Bandeham Sri Guru Sri Juta Padakamalam Sri Grun Vaishnavamsya Sri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatham Tam Sajivam Swadhitam Savadhutam Harijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Deva Sri Radha Krishna Padana Sahagana Dalita Sri Visakhanitamscha Idam Guru Gauranga Radha Krishna Sarva Vaishnava Tatyabhay Idam Namama Swaha. Namo Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Sri Gurudeva. Own Gurudev name. Uttering your own Gurudev. Swamin iti namine idam gurave idam namama swaha. Namayom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swamin iti namine idam pratisthata charja idam namama swaha. Namayom Vishnu Padaya Krishna Pristhaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati iti namine idam param gurave idam namama swaha. Sri Harshavanavi Devi Daitaya Vipadhaye Krishna Sambandhya Vijnana Daine Prabhave Nama idam param gurave idam namama swaha. Madhurjala Premadya Sri Rupanuga Bhaktida Sri Gaura Karuna Shakti Vigrahaya Namastute idam param gurave idam namama swaha. Namaste Gauravani Sri Murtaye Dinatarine Sri Rupanuga Viruddhapa Siddhantya Antya Harine इदं परं गुरवे इदं नमः स्वाहा नमो गौरकिशोराय साक्षात् वैराग्य मूर्तये विप्रलम्भ्य प्रसम्बोधे पदाम्बुजाय ते नमः इदं परात्पर गुरवे इदं नमः स्वाहा नमो भक्तिविनोदाय सच्चिदानन्द आमिने गौरशक्ति स्वरूपाय रूपानुगा वरायते इदं महागुरवे इदं नमः स्वाहा श्री गौर आविर्भाव उमेष्ट्यं निर्दिष्ट्या सज्जन प्रिया वैष्णव सार्वभौम श्री जगन्नाथाय ते नमः इदं परमेष्टि गुरवे इदं नमः स्वाहा वंशकल्प तरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः इदं सर्ववैष्णवेभ्यो इदं नमः स्वाहा नमो महागदन्नाय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नाम्ने गौरतीशे नमो इदं गौराय इदं नमः स्वाहा पंच तत्तात्मकं कृष्ण भक्तरूप स्वरूपकं भक्तावतारं भक्त्याख्यां नमामि भक्तशक्तिकम् इदं पंचतत्ताय इदं नमः स्वाहा हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिकान्त राधाकान्त नमस्तुते इदं कृष्णाय इदं नमः स्वाहा जयतां ततो पंगो मम मन्द्या अतिर्गति मत्सर्वस्य पदम्भोज राधा मदन मोहन इदं सम्बन्धि देव मदन मोहनाय इदं नमः स्वाहा दिव्यान् इन्दरण्या कल्पद्रुमाध श्रीमद् रत्नगार सिंहस्तनो श्री श्री राधा श्रील गोविंद देव प्रेष्टालीभि शिवमानो सरामि इदं श्रीमान रास दशारंभी वंशीवट तटस्थित कर्षण वेणु सनिर्गोपी गोपीनाथ श्रीयस्तुना इदं प्रयोजनादिदेव गोपीनाथाय इदं नमः स्वाहा तप्त कांचन गौरांगे राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानु सुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये इदं राधिकाय इदं नमः स्वाहा जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद इदं पंचतत्ताय इदं नमः स्वाहा Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Idam Panchatattaya Idam Namah Swaha Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Idam Panchatattaya Idam Namah Swaha Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Idam Radha Krishna Bhyam Idam Namah Swaha Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Idam Radha Krishna Bhyam Idam Namah Swaha Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare Idam Radha Krishna Bhyam Idam Namah Swaha. Now Purnahati. So everybody please stand up. And hold the whatever you have the remains. Banana especially. Now say Namo Brahmana Devaya O Brahmanya Hitaya Cha Jagadhitaya Krishnaya Govindaya Namo Namo Idam Krishnaya Idam Namah Swaha. So put all of. So now 3 times circumambulating with Hare Krishna Mahamantra chanting. Yeah, put all of them. Whatever you have. Put. Krishna Krishna.
Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare